Greetings. It's Saturday, June the 14th, 2025. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is a special report, Flag Day, and the Day of Reckoning. It's been a pretty eventful few days here in the United States and in the Middle East and around the world, really. Today is the day Americans traditionally celebrate their good old red, white, and blue stars and stripes. It's also the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States Army. It's also the birthday of the current president. He's turning 79 today. And it's also the day we're going to be following the events in American streets and Middle Eastern skies. The last couple of days have been quite eventful. Missiles have rained down on Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and all over Israel. The same thing has also happened in Iran. A full-blown war has begun. Now, analyzing the reason why it didn't have to happen, that's kind of, in the past at this point. President Trump in the United States thinks that the Iranians might come back to the negotiating table, which is what we call, to use another American idiom, a snowball's chance in hell. It would be like trying to get the Americans to negotiate right after Pearl Harbor. That's not going to happen. The Iranian government and leadership knows they weren't targeted as much for their nuclear development program, but because their government is under attack and is supposed to be destroyed. This is all about regime change, and more that's coming out, and even the mainstream media is now beginning to see that. It's a full-blown war. How wide it gets, that's yet to be determined. As I said earlier, in one of my previous reports, we are entering the realm of the unknown. When a war starts, you never know where it's going to go, who it's going to affect, and most important, how many lives it's going to cost. So far, it's been relatively few. I think there's only one person who's been killed in Israel, according to official reports, quite a few injuries, a lot of damage, more than the Israelis were probably expecting. Iran still seems to have a massive supply of ballistic missiles. There seems to be, as of this morning, and this is early Saturday morning, there seems to be a lull in the fighting, but it will continue. It'll be a long-range war, fought by drones, fought by missiles, and fought by intelligence operatives. A very unique conflict. The United States is already involved and was already a party to this rather sad affair. It will no doubt back its longtime friend and ally, Israel, a country which has enormous political influence in the United States. The U.S. is also currently sending many ships to the area. The Russians and Chinese are expected to do the same. Again, we're in the land of the unknown, or the sea of the unknown, or the skies of the unknown. Frightening, isn't it? Well, there's good reason for that. Iran is not going to be a pushover. That is evident. And it's also not going to be overthrown easily, in spite of all of the celebrating and all of the political activity by the Iranian exiles. Today is also going to be a day where there's going to be the No More Kings Rally, or No Kings Rally, or something they're calling it. There's going to be thousands of these events throughout the United States. They're all coordinated and paid for by billionaires who wish to see the United States in its current form destroyed and turned basically into one big slave camp. And this is being handled by people who have been starved of protein and starved of education and starved of intellect. One big volatile mix. And it probably is not going to end very well. People have talked openly of civil war, of the United States dissolving into one big bloody fistfight. Is that possible? Yes. Likely? Open to debate. Clearly, Donald Trump has gone against the reasons why he was elected, to keep us out of war, to enforce law and order, and also more important, to put America first. Clearly, Israel is what's coming first right now. The man who wrote The Art of the Deal clearly made one with people who helped him get into power, the details of which we're not party to, but we can kind of guess at this point. Now, what does the average American do in a situation like this? Well, we tend to be very much into preparing for emergencies. We're good at stockpiling food, weapons, and ammunition, of course, where you can do that, and, of course, medical supplies. But also to be very careful with your computers. This is a good time to start changing your passwords on your services and your systems, because cyber warfare is very real, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility that the Iranians or their Russian or Chinese allies are going to attack the United States in that way. The other thing that you have to be very careful about this weekend and on into the future are fifth column operations, meaning sleeper cells. Iranians and other nationalities have come to this country and have set themselves up to wait for instructions to sabotage, set off bombs, shoot people, cause other mayhem here. A lot of American infrastructure is not well guarded. A relay station for power, for example, is usually something anybody can walk into and do all sorts of mayhem if they have the right type of weaponry or equipment. This is a time that tries men's souls, to borrow from another American patriot at another time in history, a man named Thomas Paine, who was at a place called Valley Forge. We have a very hot summer ahead, not a cold winter like he had to deal with. So it's important to be prepared, to not put your head in the sand like an ostrich does, and to be very aware of what's important, and more important, who's important. Families, something that's been under attack by the leftists for decades now. This is a time for those to stick together. Even people who haven't spoken to each other in years should be in touch with each other now. Neighbors, something we used to pride ourselves in knowing all about. In many American cities, we don't know who's living next door to us in the same apartment building, let alone who's down the hall or who's even down the street. The thing that's important to remember is who you are, where you've been, and where you're going. That applies to all nationalities, especially Americans. We've been in worse situations than this. Our ancestors had to endure far more than we've had to endure. And they didn't have the resources, the technology, or the food supply, or the medicines that we have. Just remember that there are people out there, foreign enemies and domestic enemies, that are now hard at work to destroy everything that several hundred years of Americans built. Americans of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all races, of all religions. People who've come from all parts of the world to come to this very strange land and try a very strange experiment, and to live in relative peace and freedom, and to govern themselves. We have been betrayed by so many people. People in government, people in academia, people in business. Corporate America has done as much to damage us as the left-wing academics of the universities that used to be the halls of knowledge that people from around the world looked at in awe and wonder and aspired to attend. Remember, when you want to make America great again, it doesn't mean you're showing allegiance to a particular person that came into office with that theme at the forefront of his campaign. You're talking about an idea, one that was maybe never completely realized in our history, but one we keep aspiring to, one that we keep looking to the future for, and most important, one that we have to be willing to fight for, because nothing worth having ever comes easily. and nothing worth keeping is going to remain in your hands unless you fight for it as well. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies within reason. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember Clown World, the deep state, and those who wish the American nation and people harm must be destroyed. Good day.